2 budgets and 2 treasurers, all in the space of 1 year. The May budget and ballooning debt was one of the triggers for an early election. This interim budget promises corrective action.
It won't be a slash and burn budget, but it will be a disciplined budget.
Health once again accounts for the largest spend, taking up more than a third of the budget at $3.5 billion. Education is almost a quarter at $2.4 billion. Tasmania's net debt is currently about $5 billion. Without government action, the pre-election financial outlook estimated it would hit $13 billion by 2028. The government estimates their actions will keep it contained to $10.4 billion, which is not too different to the Barnett budget that triggered the election.
What we've got now is a glide path to a balanced budget that will require action, and we're up to it.
In 4 years, that debt will cost $618 million a year to service. The aim is to start paying it down from 2028. New taxes are not on the Treasurer's mind. Instead, the government is doubling down on its efforts to rein in spending. The state's net operating balance is predicted to reduce from a deficit of $1 billion in the current financial year to a very modest surplus of $5.6 million in 2028-29.
But this position is still pretty dire. It's the worst of any state or territory when you include the deficits of the GBEs.
The government's plan to address the deficit relies largely on finding efficiencies in the public service.
It will require tough action. It will require the cooperation of the Parliament, but you cannot say you want budget repair and then complain about every potential saving.
The government is now aiming to cut 2,800 public servants by 2032. The only new savings announced total just $12 million. But this budget is all about laying the groundwork for further savings in next year's.
And state political reporter Lucy MacDonald joins us now from Parliament. Lucy, the government's last budget triggered a state election. How likely is this one to pass the Parliament?
Well, Guy, it certainly and unsurprisingly wasn't well received by either Labor or the Greens. They're concerned about what it means for the public service, and the Greens, of course, are frustrated that the stadium has been funded. On top of that, the debt position's really not all that different to the last budget that Parliament felt like it couldn't support. But when asked today if Labor would vote against the budget, Labor Shadow Treasurer Dean Winter was clear Labor does not block supply. He was also asked about the possibility of another no confidence motion, and he gave the same answer. Now, I feel like we've all learnt by now, never say never in Tasmania, but it does seem pretty likely that no matter how unpopular this budget is, it will pass the Parliament.
There's not much new in the budget, so how different is it to the one that failed in May?
Well, Guy, it's not that different in terms of action, right? We've got this surplus at the end. We don't know too much about how we're going to get there. The vibe, though, very different. There's no talk of this sensible pathway to surplus. We know the timeline to that surplus has been sped up. And there's also this real recognition of the challenges that are facing Tasmania. As we all know, Eric Abetz is no fan of debt, and he speaks a lot about the responsibility of addressing debt for the next generation. And it seems clear that he's going to do whatever he thinks needs to be done to fix the situation. Of course, we know when it comes to him, that means leaving more heavily on savings rather than finding new revenue. All in all, though, it seems to be more of a scene setter, almost like it's sort of letting Tasmania and its politicians have time to process how tough the next budget might be. Here's what Labor and the Greens said earlier.
If you look at the forward estimates, you'll see that the cuts start coming from next year. Next year's budget will be the budget where Tasmanians really feel the pain.
This is a budget that will frighten many people who are working in essential services and community services. It's clear there are huge gaps in this stadium austerity budget.
Now, it's the public service that's going to bear the brunt of balancing the books. Reporter Adam Holmes takes a closer look at what it means for public servants.
Teachers and health workers walking off the job, and 16 public sector wage agreements still to be settled. The government already has a fight on its hands with workers and unions. The budget offers no compromises.
This budget is so disappointing.
You cannot concrete over a health crisis. It is a really devastating budget. It impacts every single agency and every services.
The government is sticking to the 3% pay increase over 1 year, well short of union demands. The budget shows that every 1% increase above that costs more than $80 million a year.
The government cannot afford the public service it has. We know that we need the public service themselves, including and particularly the secretaries of departments, to do their job and get their departments under control.
The budget continues with plans to find $50 million per year in savings in the public sector via an efficiency unit, rising to $150 million in 2027, and an ongoing hiring freeze for what the government calls non-essential recruitment.
We already are short of staff, so we're not spending the amount on staff that we should be. So the Treasurer is not being honest in respect to that.
And major cuts in public servant numbers have moved 1 year closer. In 2022, Tasmania had about 5,300 public servants per 100,000 people. That's continued to grow, including another jump since the May budget. The government wants to return to the 2022 rate in 2032. The Treasurer says this amounts to 2,800 fewer workers.
Sometimes when you're right size, there will be discomfort occasion to people, which will not necessarily provide accolades for the government, but nevertheless it's the right thing to do, and that's what we'll be doing.
The next budget, in 6 months' time, could be where the impacts on workers really start to hit home. But today's budget had one taste of things to come: the government to consolidate its departmental communication staff. A drop in the ocean with tougher decisions ahead. Adam Holmes, ABC News.